Hello and welcome to EdIC4 Reviewer, wherein we are going to discuss about the foundation of special and inclusive education. Take note that this is just a review, wherein we will just run through with a special and important concepts regarding this course. I am Angelica Jimenez, your instructor for this 1 hour of Adept Review. Okay, so let's start this discussion or maybe the run through about this thing. So first of all, we need to differentiate inclusive from special education. Okay, so what's the difference? When we talk about inclusive education, we focus on the view of the disability that results on how to cope from the interaction between the environment and the condition of the person. Meaning, it is about the connection between the person who has a disability to the environment he or she is in. Another, it is looking on the necessary adjustment. Given that that person has a disability, what should we do? And there is a part of education or the word education there, meaning there is an academe involved. What should an institution do in order to give the students the appropriate learning, the appropriate education that they need to take, although they have these lapses? Okay, so for special education, it's a different thing or it's a different view. Emanates from a medical view of disability, okay? Meaning we are looking on a person with medical terms. Like for example, if that person has scoliosis, meaning what are the symptoms of scoliosis? Okay, so it is more of a medical view. Unlike for the inclusive education, it's more on we are looking on the adjustment of the person towards the society. Although these two are almost the same. It focuses on correcting deficits of persons with disability to enable them to function effectively in the society. As I have said, it only looks on the medical view, so that a specialist should be able to determine how to treat that kind of disability. Okay, more likely only a specialist will be able to give, okay, to give that child what they should do or how should they act or how will we cope with them. Like with a special education, it's a different thing. Only a specialist can do this. Okay, although as what I am stating a while ago, they are the same, almost the same, I'm sorry, and they go hand in hand. We have this what I call, they are interrelated with each other, okay? Since what we are after is that we are coping with adjustments, okay? With the adjustments and how to correct it and to give them what the regular students already have, okay? So note that this course addresses the need to prepare teachers to handle students with disabilities in both segregated and inclusive setting. What is good about this course is that it is not only offered for those teachers majoring in special education. We are also looking at those students or maybe those teachers that they have a chance wherein they will be able to encounter students that has a disability, right? So it's a good thing. To continue, we have this the Department of Education Handbook about Inclusive Education 2000. Take note, they are using the term inclusive because not all teachers are specialists in terms of these cases. Okay, so they are using the word inclusive. And then, what is this handbook all about? So, it envisioned that a child with special needs will get full parental and community supports. Like it is the parent, all the stockholders, at the same time the institution will go hand in hand in order to help these students. The special child should be provided with a healthy environment. No discrimination, bias, stereotyping, okay? That only includes students with disabilities, but also, okay, gifted and talented. Even those gifted and talented, sometimes they are being bullied because as to how advanced they think or the skills that they have. And then we also have this technical committee that they avoid really giving the term abnormal to students. They also wanted to address it like students with additional needs. Okay, I think even the term special is being a controversy since they think that everyone is special. Okay, everyone of us is unique. It is just that these students with disabilities need additional things, need additional guide in order for them to adjust with the environment they are in. Okay, so what are the goals of inclusive education? We need to provide them special needs, okay, with a mainstream of basic education. Mainstreaming is where we put students with special needs along with regular students. Okay, that is what we call mainstreaming. To enhance strategical key areas in human research development, family involvement. So it is the help of everyone in order to provide strategies as to how to make the learning better for them. And how will they be able to achieve these goals? First is the responsiveness to rights. Of course, there are a lot of rights that aid this type of students. Later on, we are going to discuss that. The sensitivity and responsiveness to the context as to where they are in. We need to be sensitive enough. We need to have this empathy towards them. And the last is the no learner left behind. Indeed, those who are capable and those who are not capable should not be left behind. We should aid them and give them additional assistance in order for them to not be left behind, especially in education. So the scope, like how wide or maybe what is the limit or the boundary of inclusive education? Okay, so of course the authorities are the one responsible for this inclusive education because in the first place, the DepEd, the Department of Education, and even the CHED has this memorandum that talks about that inclusive education should as much as possible be imposed in the classroom or in a widely institution. Parents, groups, and organizations of persons with disabilities should be involved in the education process at all levels. Parents and organizations we are with should have a big role with this. Okay? And then, the special attention should be given to any age. Okay? Remember, no student left behind. Then how will we be able to accommodate these students with special needs? First, the state should have a clearly stated policy stating that how will they be able to implement this inclusive education. Second is that the curriculum should be flexible enough to cope and to make these learners adapt. Lastly is that the quality materials, of course, these students have special needs. That's why we need to adjust something with the materials we are giving to them. Sometimes we have to make enrichment or maybe remediation, okay? And then we also have this limit that if a certain school does not have enough facilities, materials, they have an option not to pursue the special education. Remember, inclusive education is highly encouraged, but then special education can only be implemented and will be effective if the institution itself has hit enough, okay, has enough resources to accommodate those needs. But if there are lacking resources, maybe teachers, enough teachers, materials, or anything, maybe they need to somehow consider it and not pursue special education. Okay? Because the result is that it will be worse. Rather than making it better, it will be the other way around. And then, owing to the particular communication needs of deaf and deaf-blind person, their education may be more suitable provided in schools. So we have to remember that in in connection with the special education, okay, the special education, we should make it to the point that their needs are being catered. Okay, so let's have an activity for this. Okay, I just wanted to know if your answer is true or false. Okay, now let's move on with the psychological, philosophical, and legal basis. Ma'am, why is there an inclusive education? Where does it originate? Is it just an invention of someone and then suddenly it appeared? Of course not. There's a lot of sources as to why inclusive education is being implemented nowadays. So here are they. First is or the psychological basis. You should know about Levi-Gotsky scaffolding and the JPD. Okay, as third year students, I think that you are already familiar with this, wherein we believe that the guide of a peer or someone who has a knowledge about a concept that is needed to be targeted is helping this student with special needs. Okay, that's why what we call scaffolding. It's like in a building, you will not be able to build something if there's no scaffolds, right? So for Levi-Gotsky, when at first, this student should be fully guided, okay? And then as time goes by, maybe just somehow a little guidance. And then after some time, when they are ready, okay, to do that, you let them do tasks independently. And that is one way why we have inclusive education. They believe that these students need to be helped by their peers, by even the regular students themselves, and the teachers inside the classroom. And as they communicate, as they interact, this type of student will be able to do it on their own. Second is the situated learning of Jan Love, wherein instead of making this, you see the picture here? Okay, so looking at the picture, instead of making your class like that, okay, no, that is not the case for situated learning of Jan Love. For Jan Love, the class should be in a certain situation, like they need to go outside, interview someone, immerse them with different contexts, okay? So that is for Jan Love, because for students with special needs, of course, these students will be more immersed. I think even the regular ones will be immersed. How about what more? I think what more with these students with special needs? Then, for the psychological basis, we also have John Piaget's cognitive development. So for John Piaget, we have 4 stages: sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete, and the formal operational. John Piaget believed that learning is a process. Okay, that means that we should strictly follow, or one should strictly undergo these stages. Okay, no shifting of stages like sensory motor to formal. No, it should be strictly sensory, pre-operational, concrete, and formal operational. Okay, so I hope that you already know this for this type. And also we have the schema. The schema is more of the stock knowledge, like what you already know, and then you connect it in what you are learning. That makes your, or maybe the concept, meaningful. Like for example, what I am discussing to you today. You will only make sense of it if you already have a schema. Okay? Next, the fourth is Bandura's social learning. I think you already know this Bobo doll. Okay? Wherein the student, maybe the kid here, is watching in a television, like punching something. Okay? The kid is just watching there. And then suddenly, when he was given this doll, he also punched it. Meaning, students will only learn because they give attention to it, it is retained inside their mind, and then reproduce. Okay? They reproduce that act. And then the motivation is that whether you are going to praise or punish the kid or a person in doing that act. That is Bandura social learning. So these four the psychological basis in doing the inclusive education. Next are the historical and sociological basis. So we have here the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Okay, so these are like the programs that being implemented in our country, in our society that we are in. Also the UNESCO. Okay, so at the same time, the education for all. Okay, this is like a program wherein we are like motivating everyone to study by having a free education. And lastly is the K to 12 inclusion policy. Right when we have this K to 12, they also include here this type of policy. Okay, so this also okay is an these four are offshoot of the inclusive education. Like somehow they are able to summarize it into becoming inclusive education because this four has this principle that we have to give quality education to everyone, equality and equity to each and everyone. Okay? Then, the legal basis, of course. So, there are a lot of legal bases we have here. So, I just want you to, of course, like, get the key idea for each of the act, okay, the Republic Act that we have here, and even the Philippine Constitution. First, the 1987 Philippine Constitution. This one maintain a system of free public education in elementary and in high school. Okay, that's why we have public school. Okay, so that everyone will be able to learn. It is education for all, after all. Then, encourage non-formal, informal, indigenous learning system. Any way of learning is being encouraged. And lastly, adult citizens, disabled, out-of-school youth with training in civics. Okay, so they should give, okay, efficient and effective type of programs and education for this type of students that we have. That is for the 1987 Constitution. You take note of that. How about the Enhanced Basic Education Act? This is where the K-12 comes in, okay? Because when Pinoy, okay, already give us this 10-5-3-3, okay, it is the K-12, wherein they also include programs for gifted and talented, learners with disabilities, the Madrasa program, indigenous people program, and the programs under learners under difficult circumstances. Not only those students who are maybe like physical, mental, are included under special and inclusive education. Also those students under the difficult circumstances. Okay, so according to this act, they stated that we should provide them something, inclusivity, in order to still continue quality education we are looking for. Then, Indigenous Peoples' Right Act, of course, this is all about the indigenous people, like giving them a right, okay, to perform and to have an equal opportunity to like participate in programs, to have this type of education, okay, and no discrimination should be heightened. Child and youth, from the word itself, the PD 603 is all about that. So the child and youth is the highlight for this legal basis wherein the parent has a big role in terms of giving the welfare, enough welfare to the students. And then, special protection against child abuse and exploitation. We have here, of course, those who are being abused, women, and especially child. For example, a child under 18 is being pushed to work. Of course, it will fall under RA 7610. You have to take note of this, huh? Remember, this will also be a part of the LET, as I remember from my previous examination. Okay, and then the 9344 for Juveniles Justice and Welfare Act. This one, it prevents a student, I mean, not really a student, a person that has special needs to be to go to jail. Okay, as much as possible, they wanted it to like be in a place, okay, be in a certain place, not really in jail. Like you see here, Title 3, Prevention of Juvenile Delinquency. Okay, so for example, the person with the disability, okay, commits a crime, maybe a murder. Okay, so somehow they make adjustments for them because maybe their his or her mental health has something. Okay, so they make further investigation regarding that. So somehow this act, okay, protect those kinds of person. Okay, and then 9442, the Magna Carta, when we have this Magna Carta, it means that the privilege of the disabled person. Okay, the most common privilege are the scholarships, grants, financial aid. It depends, like if you have this PWD ID, okay, so you have this discount, right? So that's it, that's the Magna Carta. Open High School System Act. The Open High School System Act is for those adults who wanted to continue education, okay, even though they are still working, okay, so that's it. To overcome personal, geographical, socioeconomic, and physical constraints. Since it is stated in our 1987 Constitution that we encourage non-formal, informal, indigenous learning system, even the Open High School System Act is the one who helps it. Okay, so the RA 7277, Rehabilitation and Integration of Disabled Persons in Mainstream Society, is more of putting a mainstreaming in the education. That's why it is included here, special education, state universities and colleges. This is where they open, okay, they open the institution, the college, to accept even these students with additional needs. Okay, so I hope that you do take note because we will be having a short activity about the legal basis or laws that can be correlated with the given situation. Okay, let's see. Okay, so now let's move on to the typologies of learners with special needs. Now, it is time for us to classify these students with special needs. It is important to know that there are a lot or there are various types of students with special needs. Because if we know where they are coming from, somehow we will be able to determine how to deal with them. Not really to deal with them, but how to make them adjust with the classroom we set in. So there are 4 categories of special needs according to Garcia 2018. Physical, developmental, behavioral, or emotional, and lastly is sensory impaired special needs. So let's see. Physical needs. So take note that I am not really a specialist in this part, but I am giving you a general knowledge about these needs. We have students with allergies and asthmas. Okay, I think you are somehow familiar with this. They are hard to breathe. Okay, even when they eat food, they have allergies, and it hinders them from attending class. Maybe for some, they just think that, oh, that was just an asthma. Like it will just be for a while. But no, it's very hard. Okay, their situation is different. Limb differences, like maybe not having a limb. Okay, not having a limb, like these arms, these legs. The juvenile and chronic arthritis, like with the joints. Okay, there are a loss of strength, endurance, and stamina. It's hard for them to run, to walk, to move because they're having difficulty to move their joints. So this is an example. Like for juvenile chronic, you see even their fingers, okay, is like having an inflammation, sorry. And this is Nick, is an example of a person that has limb differences. Okay. Then we also have multiple scoliosis. When we say scoliosis, it's like the brain, okay, the brain and the body is being affected, and that is why it results to vision loss, pain, fatigue, impaired coordination. Okay, cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is more of the brain, the neurons. Okay, because the brain is the one helping us to move. If this is somehow has a defect, it will be hard for us to move. Lastly is the epilepsy. Like they have these seizures. Okay, seizures. The seizures are like it happens suddenly depending on which cases or level they are in. Okay, so you see, for multiple sclerosis, they have this, it's hard for them to visualize, to maybe have a straight body in sitting, something like that. Okay, and then this is a person, this is an example of a kid that has cerebral palsy. You see, their hands are like this because their mind, or not really, that their brain is not functioning properly. So it's really hard for them to adjust into something. Okay? So those are the examples for physical. How about for developmental needs? When we talk about developmental, it is more of the delays in the way they learn. For physical, more likely the physiological, like the muscles, the outside. But for developmental, it's more of the learning, okay? The brain, how our brain process. So we have this Down syndrome. Okay, people that has or that have Down syndrome has almost the same, they have the same faces. Okay? It is because there is an extra chromosome. It is just like XX, XY. But with them, there is an extra one. Okay? Visual and auditory problems, thyroid disease. See, they are very sensitive. All their senses, okay, are being affected. With Down syndrome, early intervention is available. Like when you say early intervention, you already address the lapses as early as when they are born. And then we also have the autism. Most of the time, we interchange these two, but they are different. For autism, it started like the child is normal when he or she is born. But for Down syndrome, you will already see that there's something different with the child's face because it is evident physically. But for autism, it's different. Sometimes when the child is born, he or she is normal. But it becomes evident when this child hits the age 3 and below. Okay? So there is a repetitive activities and resistance. Like they do not want, okay, to For example, a kid do not want to like hold off their for example their favorite doll. They do not want other people touching it. They're just the one doing it. Or maybe they do like circling and circling in the class. That's how they satisfy themselves. Okay, so autism spectrum disorder is that. Like, dyslexia. I think you're familiar with that. Most of us think that dyslexia is more of the vision, but no. It also falls on our brain, the process of our brain. So look at this. That is how a student with dyslexia will read something. Okay, it's hard for them. If you know that every child is special, that person or that kid has a dyslexia, right? So those are the examples for the learning. Okay, they all fall under how a student learns something. Then behavioral and emotional needs. For this, the way we behave. First, disassociation. Like for example, we don't want to talk with anybody. Okay, remember, being an introvert and having disassociation is different. Okay? So, disassociation is that you really do not want to talk to other people, and sometimes it results to multiple personality disorder if you know Rodora X. Okay? Like you're happy now and then later on you have a changed mood, but it's a different that we also have this bipolar. But more likely disassociation talks about how we socialize with other people. Look at this, mistrust authority. Ayan, mawala ng tiwala. Okay? It's different than if you get heartbroken and wala ka ng tiwala. That's different. Okay? Disassociation is that everyone around you, you do not trust them. You generalize it. And then does not happen for one day. It happens like on your entire life, something like that. Okay? So that is disassociation. Then, obsessive compulsive disorder. Like, you're excessively thinking about this thing. Most of the time, they are overthinkers. Like, for example, you smile with someone. And then, when that someone doesn't smile back, you think, oh my goodness, what did I do wrong? Okay, that's obsessive compulsive disorder. You are overthinking everything. Although that person maybe medyo blur lang yung eyes niya, hindi siya nakakakita. But then, for you, it's like, it's too much. What happens? Okay? And you're always like that. That's obsessive compulsive disorder. But, disclaimer, okay, everyone, do not self-diagnose. I am just telling you general knowledge. Do not say that, oh, I'm like this, like what Ma'am Angelica is saying. No. Okay? Do not self-diagnose yourself. Okay, I am just telling you the general knowledge about this. Attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Yes, of course. Sometimes we kid, like we are thinking that our students have this ADHD because they are so active, right? They are active. Um, Even with everyone else is no longer active. It's like that. They do not lose energy. They also have this something inside them. Okay, so that is ongoing pattern of inattention. Okay, so sometimes it is hard for them to get their attention because they are putting it to something else. Like for example, the action they are doing, and then the eating disorders. Do we have someone who has this eating disorder? Okay. Abnormal eating habit. Okay. So, no. Do not include your classmates that are buraot. They are not included here. It's different. Okay. So, this, students with this eating disorder, those that are what we call this anorexia, sometimes it results to anorexia, like you do not want to eat anything at all because you wanted to stay fit, something like that, or maybe you eat too much, like a lot. Okay, anorexia is eating less, bulimia is eating more. Okay, so this is because they are having this something in their mind that makes them do this, and it's hard for them to control it. Okay, it's not easy. Okay, so we are done with that. Let's move on with the sensory impaired special needs. So, slight impaired, blindness of loss of sight, hearing, okay, sensory processing, like something about the vision, hearing, smell, taste. Okay, that it is hard for them to be like when they are exposed with light, they are too sensitive. That is for sensory, that everything around them becomes dim. Okay, so or maybe too much noises irritates them. Okay, so those are examples of sensory processing disorder. Now, let's go on with our short activity. So, tell what category of special needs is being presented. So, you just need to tell me if it's physical, developmental, behavioral, or sensory impaired. But it is better if you will tell to me what yung para specific, more specific. Okay? First, Sasha is an overthinker. Whenever a certain situation bothers her, she is always anxious as to how would she be able to cope with it. Now she cannot even enjoy her favorite hobby like reading because of it. Next, Mikey went to school knowing that he was okay that day. Suddenly, on his way to the class, he experienced uncontrollable seizures. Third, whenever Maya is in her personal room, she prefers to use the lights. This is because she is not comfortable being exposed with so much light as she cannot concentrate well. Inside the house, Clara loves spinning in circles repeatedly. Whenever she eats, she uses the same utensils and plates and hates to change it. This act of hers started when she was 3 years old. So after learning those developmental, physiological, and other emotional and other needs of the learners, especially the typology of them, let's go now to the other types of learners that also need additional or supplementary learning. But these types of students are different to what I discussed earlier. First and foremost are the gifted and talented learners. These students are mostly at advantage in their class, but because of that advantages, they're too much advanced in terms of thinking. Somehow, it's quite hard or maybe difficult to think that these gifted and talented learners may also thought that they are abnormal in a sense that they're too advanced. But that's not a thing. We should not make them realize that it's like that. They are still part of the normalcy of everything. So how can we say that someone is a gifted or talented student? First, they learn more quickly. They can pick up things like when everyone are still confused, these learners already acquired what are needed to be acquired. Second, they often have well-developed vocabulary, okay? Since they easily learn something whenever they are encountering things, it is already instilled in their minds, okay? Maybe in their long-term memory. So that's why they have a well-developed vocabulary as well as acquiring the macro skills like reading, writing, speaking, and even listening. Third, they are very motivated, especially on tasks that are challenging or difficult. Because easy tasks for them are boring. Okay, so whenever there is something that is challenging that triggers their mind, it makes them motivated. Fourth, they hold themselves to higher than usual standards of achievement. Since they are this talented and gifted, what they do are exemplary. They are not necessarily awkward socially, less healthy or narrow in their interests. What we commonly know about gifted and talented students are that they are aloof with others, they tend not to socialize, or maybe they are not healthy. But that's not a thing. In our everyday living, okay, these students are what? They are also extroverted. They can speak well to other students. Okay, maybe we just have these thoughts since that is what the television and the movies are portraying to us. But these are rare cases. Most of our gifted and talented students are very sociable. Okay, so because of these students that are very advanced in terms of learning something, they have to undergo enrichment or acceleration. Now, we will differentiate these two, like how they are different. First is the enrichment. So when we say enrichment, it is about providing supplementary or additional tasks or activities for that students that are still part of the curriculum on that grade level. For example, student A is a gifted student and he or she is in level 7. What you will do to him is that still in level 7, because they are still in the curriculum goals and activities, but additional, okay, additional tasks, more tasks. If regular students will have 5 activities, maybe these gifted students will have 8 activities. And then he or she will not move to a difficult, a more difficult kind of math. Okay, for example, the subject is math. He or she will not go to the next topic, unlike with the regular students. What she or he will do is that these students will still be in that part, okay, will that in that part of the topic, but will work on unusual logical problems that are still on the same topic with the regular students. Okay, no moving or no not advancing to other higher level topics. And then this exists to help classroom teachers work with gifted students. Sometimes these gifted students are good to have in the classroom since they can help and they can aid the teachers in terms of solving problems. Okay, instead the teacher doing it himself or herself, it is better that the students will do it, and gifted students somehow suffice these needs. However, there are limitations for enrichment. Okay, sometimes it is in a certain curriculum there is a risk that what we do to them is that we just make them busy, we just make them occupied onto something, okay, meaning they are not really advancing and we are not maximizing what they really have. Okay, sometimes when you just let them, okay, just focus on this topic, do not go advance, we are limiting that students. Okay, so that somehow makes it not good for an advanced or gifted students. Okay, another is that if the teacher is not familiar with the enrichment material, okay, it may ruin what the child should learn. Okay, how about the acceleration? Acceleration usually happens when the teacher or the whole faculty might think that the students really need to be accelerated to the next level because that he or she already gathered what should be acquired from that level. So it is either skipping a grade, okay, skipping a grade from grade 7, you the students will enroll now in grade 8, or maybe redesigning the curriculum for a particular grade so that more material is covered faster. Okay, so the teacher will be designing a curriculum. But sometimes, okay, it's harder to redesign the curriculum, especially we have this regular students. And then students who skip grade usually function well in higher grade, both academically and socially. So this is according to research that they thought that when you accelerated, they have this belief that you already acquired what is needed to be acquired. So when you go or skip this thing, they can function well. However, again, on the other side, skipping a grade, okay, cannot happen unless the student is not yet ready for this kind of changes. As what is written here, grades cannot repeatedly, skipping grades cannot happen repeatedly unless teacher, parents, and students themselves are prepared to live with larger age or maturity differences within single classroom. For example, you're an 8 years old student who will mingle with 12-year-old students. Okay, that will somehow give them a culture shock or something since there is a gap with the age. Another is that we will not have a guarantee that whatever the teacher will teach on that grade level for the which the advanced students will be skipping is something that he or she already acquired. Okay, we do not have an assurance with that. Then, redesigning the curriculum is beneficial for your students. What I am saying a while ago about the acceleration, and instead of skipping a grade, you can redesign the curriculum. But then it can be impractical, especially for a class that has 40 to 50 students. Okay, because teachers have a lot of things to do, and designing it again will take too much time. Okay, so it depends maybe upon the consultation from the administrator, from the administrators, from the teachers, and from the peers. Okay, so if enrichment is and acceleration will be better for gifted students, then give it to them. Now let's move on. And in additional for gifted and talented students, we also have these learners that are in difficult circumstances. Who are they? Homeless, orphaned, working, children in bondage or slavery, migrant, street children, child beggars, child sex workers, suffering from abuse, AIDS, conflict with law. Okay? So, these students are also considered that needs special attention since they do not have the resources to study. Okay, for example, they will arrive in school not following a dress code since they do not have, for example, a money, for example, to buy a uniform and shoes. So, we need to do something about it. Another, they need to, for example, have these books. But if these students are, for example, living on the street, what will happen? Maybe these books will easily get deteriorated or something. So as teachers, we also need to make adjustments for them. And our curriculum, at the same time, the act, okay, the act that we have will provide something for them. But as teacher, we should have an initiative to extend our hand to them. Learners in indigenous group. So, of course, these learners are most of the time being stereotyped, okay? But they also have something, okay? Most of the time, people in metropolitan, okay, there is like this stereotyping that happens that they think that people in metropolitan is better. But when you see the results from the license examination for teachers, most of the top notchers came from urban, okay, came from the urban places. So what do they do? Okay, there is something good. Okay, so the Igorot, the Aita, Mangyan, Moro, the Tumandok from Panay Island, and the Lumad Mindanao. These are some of the examples of the indigenous group that we have, that we also need to address, especially the culture, okay, respecting the culture, no bias, okay, of course, discrimination and racism. Okay, so this is what I am talking about. What are the programs that we do for special education? We have this early intervention. From the word itself, as early as when the child is born, we are already making something for them in order to cope with the lapses. For example, you've noticed that this child has autism. Okay, if this child has an autism, therefore you may address it by honing the physical, cognitive, and communication skills. Okay, early intervention is like a natural method of fixing and improving what should be improved on the latter part. Okay, it's like prevention. And then we also have this Philippine model, like the mainstreaming. Okay, we have two types of mainstreaming: the partial and the full. Mainstreaming, when we say partial, the students will be just there half of the day, not the whole day for the class, and maybe he or she will be pulled out. Okay, because maybe if something triggers him or her, the class will not be as good as what it is supposed to be. Okay, maybe it will disturb the class because there are times also that those students in special needs, okay, cannot really contain themselves in regular classroom. Okay, so these are students that are part of the partial mainstreaming. However, those who can cope with this are in full mainstreaming. They are in complete regular instruction. They are like the regular students that we have, but still they are being given additional learning. Okay. Okay, the third is a transition program. Transition program is all about, okay, giving to them what is in the outside world. Okay, from the word itself, transitioning from the classroom, we are passing them on to what? To the real world, to the occupation. Look at there. There is the daily living skills, okay, personal and social skills, occupational guidance and preparation. These are mostly done in special education, okay, wherein they are being taught how to cook, okay, how to answer in an interview, and even how to write on the resume and other stuff, like in the real life. Because we need these students, okay, these students with special needs, though they are like this, okay, they still need, or we have to give them what potential they can give out to the economy. Okay? Because the less people that are working or that are being efficient and productive in the society, the less we will grow as a country. That's why as much as possible, we will not let them be. Okay? We should help them and give them our hand, okay, to help them. And they will also help us. Sustaining programs, so these are like establishment of special education centers, provision of sped items. When we say sped items, the books, other resources, computers, and downloading of funds, like budgeting them higher, okay, making the budget a good fund for this program, sustaining programs. So sustaining programs can come up with other activities like feeding programs, something like that. Then, last, we had the National IP Education Policy. Of course, this is for the indigenous people that we have. Okay, maintain an education system that will recognize, protect, and promote the rights and welfare of ICCS. Admit it or not, they are still undergoing discrimination. Okay, that's why we have this kind of policy. Okay, so for the last part of this review, we are moving with the teaching strategies. So when we talk about the teaching strategies, what can we do when we are part of this inclusive and special education program? So a teacher in a special education program should first provide an outline. Okay, a teacher should always provide an outline of what should be taught. One simple thing is giving them the objective before the class started. Second, variety of teaching methods. Even in regular students, we should not be a boring teacher wherein we just do whatever. Do what is, yes, we have to think of other activities that will make them engage. Then this third is important. Clear, second, straightforward language. You want to make it direct as possible because as I told you, there are developmental deficiencies for some students that have special needs. That's why whenever we give instruction, it should be clear, complete, and then straightforward. Reinforced learning by using real life examples, okay? Making it meaningful. Then, whenever possible, ensure that key statements and instructions are repeated. Okay? Remember this. Even in lower grades, we do that we always need to repeat the instruction so it will be instilled with the student's mind. One-to-one tutoring is also important. Maybe it's not you teacher, but maybe his or her peer. You want him or her to be partner to someone else. At the same time, he or she will learn how to socialize with other people. And then, students may benefit from having oral, okay, rather than written. Okay, sometimes it's effective if there's an oral interaction rather than written because written activities, we all know this, needs more effort than oral. Okay, so in terms of their written assignments. So what are the tips or what can something that you can brought at the end of this? You have to teach for or with empathy. Okay, as what we all know this quotation: put someone else's shoes in your shoes and see what happened. It's empathy. Okay, and then teach responsibility by encouraging contributions. You ask them what they can do. Diba? Most of the time, we feel productive, we feel efficient, and we feel that we are important when we can contribute to something. So, why not, you as a teacher, you let your students contribute something in your class so that they feel that they are important in the class. Okay? Teach decision-making and problem-solving skills that reinforce self-discipline. Um, Classroom management, okay, are the most part of this, wherein students are not just learning, they are also giving out or maybe practicing discipline within themselves. Last is offer encouragement and positive feedback. Okay, most of the time in my class, I always wanted each students that are reciting or participating to feel that, wow, I am appreciated. Okay, but don't be too generous, okay, in terms of giving a positive feedback because it may be just a natural thing. Give it when it is due. And the last is in relation with positive feedback is that when they make mistake, you have to help them learn how to cope with that mistakes. And do not ever judge them with the mistake that they have. Okay, there are always hundreds of chances in our everyday life. We make a lot of mistakes. Okay, so what we must teach to our students is not how to avoid mistake. It is how to cope with mistakes. Okay? So that's it. Always remember that everyone is special. Some may just need a little or more assistance than the other. I am your instructor for this day. I hope that you learned something and it will be instilled in your mind. That's all and have a good day. Thank you.